Hello everyone, welcome to Wildwood Studio. I'm Sarah, and in this video I'm going to be doing an autumn-themed burning on this wooden box. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how I did it and what sort of inspirations there were for this design, so stick around if that sounds interesting to you. The first thing I did was draw up a design for this box in my sketchbook, so I traced the bottom of the box for size and started sketching. Since it's October, I thought I would do one with a fall theme, so a few pumpkins and some autumn flowers and leaves. The flowers I did for this one are similar to the flowers I did in a burning of a squirrel a few weeks ago, but with this one I'm definitely going to color it, since I think that the fall colors are a big part of the season. Once I was happy with this design, I transferred it to the box using some tracing paper, and I made sure to rip the tracing paper while I was taking the tape off. It wasn't a big deal, it was a bit annoying, but I was able to use it anyway. Once I had the top design on, I freehanded a little leaf and pumpkin pattern around the sides of the box. I didn't bother sketching this first because it was really simple. Also, before transferring the drawing, I sanded the box. As always, I think I probably could have done a much more thorough job with sanding because the smoother the surface it is, the easier it is to burn. But I am going to blame the box a little bit because it's just a box I got from a craft store, so it wasn't the smoothest thing to begin with, and I did spend quite a bit of time sanding this and I still didn't get it completely smooth. Once it was transferred, I started outlining it. As always, I'm using my Razortip SSD10 wood burner, and I started out with my ball tip pen. Everything I find seems to say that that's the sort of pen you should use for these kinds of lines, so I decided to try it out, but halfway through I got fed up with it because I wasn't getting smooth lines, and so I just switched to my knife tip pen and went over all my lines again. I still use the ball tip pen a bit for this piece for really small stuff like the berries and the more detailed flower on the right hand side, but for everything else I switched back to my knife tip pen, which is the one I usually use, so I'm a lot more comfortable with it. Also, I'm doing an outline on this design because it's more stylized and I'm not really going for realism here. Usually I avoid outlining things because it can flatten them and make them look less realistic. Once I had the outline, I went through and added some shading with my spoon shader. This was all fairly smooth shading, and I think it adds a lot of depth to the piece overall. I did this shading fairly dark because I know that the color is going to cover it up somewhat, even though I try to color in a way that still shows the burning through it. For the flowers, I shaded each petal individually where they overlap each other to create depth, and the leaves got shaded in two parts around the division in the middle. For the pumpkins, I just added some shadows to create the different main bumps. I could have taken this further if I wanted to be more realistic, but I didn't because that's not really what I'm going for, and I know that the color is gonna cover some of it anyway. I bought this box while I was out looking for something to store my wood burner in, so this is the runner-up for that project. The burner didn't fit in this one, so I had to use the other one. But I still thought it was a nice box, so I decided to burn something else on it. I don't know if this happens to you, but I have a tendency to overbuy supplies and then get distracted working on other projects, and they just sit around in my cupboards never to be used for anything. So earlier this week, when I was thinking about ordering some live edge wooden rounds on Amazon, I decided that instead of spending more money on wood, I should look in my cabinets and see if I can make use of one of the many things that I already have. I definitely don't only do this for wood burning. I have far too many art supplies in general, but I can't get rid of them because they might be useful someday. And you might say, well, they're just taking up space, get rid of them anyway, you know you're not really going to use them. Except that every so often I'll be working on something and go, wow, I really wish I had some purple yarn. And then I'm really happy that I didn't get rid of that yarn. So it's a bit of a self-reinforcing problem. When I started burning the sides, I tried again with my ball tip pen. I don't know why. And once again, the same problems with my lines started, and I got fed up because I just keep getting all these little dots in my lines where I don't want them, so I switched to my knife tip pen. I'm definitely getting the feeling that I need more practice with some of my pens. It's probably a problem with the amount of pressure I'm applying to the pen and also just my own impatience. I probably just need to go slower. This pattern was meant to be more simple than the one on top, so I didn't shade it at all. Okay, so here's a picture of the top of the box with just the burning. Now I'm gonna add the color, so you can tell me if you think I've ruined it in the comments. For the color, I used my Derwent watercolor pencils. They're just like regular colored pencils, but they're watercolor, so you can blend them with water. I like doing my color in watercolor because it doesn't completely cover the burning like I think acrylics probably would. That's a problem I'm actually having right now with another burning that I'm doing on leather, where I really want to add color, but the leather paints I have are acrylic and they just completely cover up the burning. I'm working with it and trying some different things like watering it down, but if you have any tips on adding color to a leather burning, I would really appreciate it. For my colors, I did the pumpkins orange, of course. I considered one orange, one yellow, and one white, but decided to go with more of a classic look. I did add a little yellow for some variation, but it's pretty subtle. For the leaves, I considered doing them yellow and brown for the fall aesthetic, but decided that green would give more of a contrast. For the ones in the back, I added some yellow and orange to the center, like they're kind of changing colors. And then I did the flowers and berries, all the same orangish red mix, since there's 3 of them and they're kind of spread out in the piece, so I thought that balanced kind of nicely. For these ones, I mixed some reds as well as browns and oranges and just kind of worked in layers. When working with these pencils in general, I really like the way that they layer, so I can color one section with the pencils and then wet it with some water to blend it, and then go back in again with the pencil to add texture or layer the colors. So that's what I did here. I just went back and forth in layers until I was happy with the colors. I also tried not to add too much paint because this would cover the burning, and I think the shading I did is still pretty visible through the colors. For contrast, I didn't shade the leaves on the side at all, so when I color those, you'll see that they still look pretty flat. Like I said before, it being October really inspired this box. I know a lot of artists I see online are already getting into Halloween, but I've always felt like Halloween doesn't really start until after Thanksgiving, and Canadian Thanksgiving is this weekend, so it didn't feel right to get all spooky until afterwards. I know American Thanksgiving is in November, so they must feel like the whole month of October just belongs to Halloween. I don't really know why our Thanksgivings are at different times. Someone told me once that it's because it's colder here, so our harvest would be earlier, so therefore so is Thanksgiving, but I have no idea if that's true. I have noticed that American and Canadian Thanksgiving celebrations tend to be a little different. They seem to put an emphasis on football and the Pilgrims in a way that I don't really see up here. My family's traditions have always just consisted of a family dinner, usually turkey and maybe some fall-themed decorations on the table. And even when I was in school, it was always more about making paper turkeys and autumn leaves than anything else, really. I think one downside to having Thanksgiving in October is that we get 2 holidays in October, and then November is just nothing. It's just the long wait to the Christmas holiday with nothing in it. If not for the fact that half my family has a birthday in November, I think it would be a really uneventful month, so that must be nice for the Americans. Once I was done with the top, I did the leaves and the pumpkins around the edges, yellow and orange, to go with the autumn theme. Then I thought it would be nice to add a brown stain to the sides of the box just because I thought it was looking a little boring, and I didn't really want to do more burnt designs on it. I could have used wood stain for this, but I didn't have any on hand, so I just went with more paint and really watered it down. Once I was done, I wasn't super happy with how the top section around the leaves looked, so I went back in with the watercolor pencils and kind of darkened that area and shaded a bit to make sure it was smooth and it looked nice around the leaf pattern. The last thing I did for this box was add red felt inside, so I just measured each face and cut the felt to size and then glued it in. Make sure if you decide to do this that you account for the thickness of the felt. It's not a big deal, you'll just end up having to trim off 1 millimeter off of some of the pieces to make them fit. I did it in red because I thought it went nicely with the warm colors on the rest of the box. I always feel like felt makes a box look more finished and professional. Then I just gave it a clear coat and it was done. Overall, I'm really happy with how this turned out. Here are some pictures of the finished box. What do you think? Color or no color? As always, please let me know what you think in the comments, and if you want to see more of my work, you can check out my Facebook or follow me on Instagram. Also, please make sure to like this video if you haven't already, and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss all my future art videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.